developing new technology to benefit the end user and creating new and exciting systems. The world is changing, people. We're now joined by Vipin Moharir, Partner and Chief Strategy Officer at Gateway Group. Vipin, thank you very much for joining us. It's a pleasure to have you in our studio. How are you?
I'm doing great.
Wonderful. So what are some of the challenges of being on the development side, especially in relation to IT?
So that's a very interesting question that you're asking. See, one of the big challenges is a little bit about the group is that we focus on something that is currently almost not possible. I say almost not possible. On the other hand, it is needed in the coming years. So that puts us in a cusp of operating with the researchers and the technology, let's say latest research, but it also allows us to apply that into the industry where we have to solve real problems in real time, meaning that you actually have to have a practical approach towards application of technology. So the challenge is, how does one look at the research? And how does one find techniques to apply it while disturbing, at least the future positioning, because you want to be disrupted, but at the same time allowing the legacy systems to coexist while the transformation is happening. And that's a real challenge.
Mm-hmm. You mentioned in the beginning a very global company. In terms of IT, where is this IT expertise coming from in a global sense?
So it's an interesting question. See, if you see the research which is being applied today, most of the research is coming from the West. Yeah. So if I look at the US, it's a great source of research. But if I look at Europe predominantly, where a huge amount of, let's say, research is coming out on artificial intelligence and data sciences, the application of this research is also happening in areas like India. So we are pretty much focused actually at the moment in terms of application of technology from our offices in India, but also our offices in Europe. And the reason for that is that you need to manage the total cost of ownership of application of this research, and that can happen when there is an abundance of skills and expertise available. And fortunately or unfortunately today you have places like China, you also have Eastern Europe, which is coming up in Europe, but we also see places like Spain. So we are predominantly focused on areas where the total cost of ownership can be optimized, while you have the brains available and the skills available to actually ensure that the application of research takes place optimally.
Could you give us an example of AI in the automotive industry?
Yeah, sure. So if you look at the traditional automotive industry, and it's a very funny example that I'm going to give you now, but let's say you have two cars, and the two cars are, let's say you and me have a car, okay? And we have pretty much the same car. You drive 40,000 kilometers in 1 year, while I drive 40,000 kilometers, let's say in 6 months, right? When our cars go into the garage, into the workplace where the mechanics are going to look at the car, funny thing is that the OEs have always maintained that the price for that particular maintenance or the service package is the same. This has been traditionally the norm, traditionally the truth. Now don't ask me why it has been like that. It's just a part of the automotive industry. But it's very illogical, because you could be driving on highways and I could be driving in the city. So although I've done my kilometers in 6 months, my car could have a lot of wear and tear, a completely different pattern of maintenance, and yours could not. Right? So when we started looking at this problem, and when we said that the traditional automotive needs to move to the next gen mobility, and especially given the fact that the automotive industry is heavily into disruption in the coming 5 years, you will see, especially in Europe, you will see that the number of new vehicles being sold, especially on ICE, which is your internal combustion engines, is going down. EVs are yet to actually capture the market. So the automotive industry has to kind of live off customer retention, maintenance, primarily from the traditional vehicles. So you need an extreme amount of efficiency, and you need an extreme amount of intelligence to manage, maintain these vehicles. That's where we came up with the concept of dynamic pricing on one side, and on the other side we came up with the concept of predictive modeling of maintenance. So now what we do is we apply AI and machine learning onto the automotive industry. We collected the data on some of the brands for the last 70 years, and we looked at the patterns of what's happening with these vehicles, how the maintenance patterns of the vehicles. Can we actually figure out when there is high, low maintenance? Can we figure out the correlationships between the skills that are required within the automotive industry to service these vehicles? And once we had actually made sense out of the entire data, and technologies of huge data lakes and AI and ML and so on and so forth, we were able to devise technologies where somebody can now start predicting what the total cost of ownership of a vehicle is in, let's say, year, 2 years, 3 years, or up to 5 years. On the other hand, if you understand the business impact of this, we are able to predict with 90% accuracy what is the cash flow of a single garage, even down to the mechanic level per car. So that is just an extreme amount of intelligence that one allows the automotive industry, to get. And then, of course, there is the next challenge, which is the dynamic pricing, which is primarily white space management in your calendars, ensuring that your skill management is done, ensuring that you don't overspend on certain maintenance categories, and so on and so forth. So it's a very exciting area for us to be in. And this excitement is because the technology is in your reach. 5 years back, it was very difficult to apply this technology, primarily because of the computing power, which was simply, not available, and the availability of data was a big question. But today's world, the technology exists. People understand, the need for the technology. People understand that this can really solve actual problems in the business sense. And it's up to companies like us to apply the technology and give the business results.